So we were going to record it because there are a few folks who can't make it here today. So we wanted to be able to share this with them afterwards. Thank you everyone for being here today. My name is Whitney Zeigler. I'm the founder of Big Rocks Organizing. We're a professional organizing, move management, and estate clear out company located based out of Beaverton, but we serve the Portland Metro and Southwest Washington area. And we have Alyssa Fuchs here, our operations manager, with us today. Thank you, Alyssa, for running our tech and being our guru today. And then we also have my dear friend and neighbor, Ann Farley, who was a professional caregiver for 15 years. And Ann has a lot of wisdom and tips and tricks that she's going to be sharing with us today. But I just want to let everyone know that this is an open and interactive conversation, and we would love it if you have questions or maybe you have ideas or experiences to share with us as well. So I hope that we can learn from each other today. And we also have some resources and handouts for you today as well. So with that, Ann, is there anything else that you'd like to add to your introduction? Because I could talk about you all day long. So Ann is an amazing watercolorist. She's also a published poet. She's a very creative person, a very caring person. And
thank you, Whitney. I actually worked as a caregiver for the elderly for 19 years.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. A few of those, like the first 8, were with an agency, and some of that time I was independent, and then I went fully independent. And now I don't call myself an employed caregiver, but I'm hoping to take care of my 89-year-old father-in-law. And since I have caregiving experience and I don't have a job at Intel or somewhere else, a lot of his care has fallen on me, which is fine. So yeah, that's my experience. My feeling is, I was sitting down and talking to Whitney the other day in the backyard. I was just sharing with her some of the things I do to keep myself organized and to help keep information about family members and some of my past clients, how I kept all that together. So do you want me to just sort of go through what we talked about, Whitney?
That would be great. Do you want me to go ahead and pull up your cheat sheet?
Yeah, let me talk about the cheat sheet.
Yeah, which I think is brilliant. Hold on one sec. Well, that's not the one.
Well, that was what we talked about on the back porch.
That's the back of the napkin.
Those are the notes.
This is the blank version. Do you want the blank one, or do you want?
Do the blank one. Yeah, that's great. So something I put together for myself and for everybody, family members and people I've worked with. I refer to it as my cheat sheet, because I put everything I can think of that I might need to know at any given time when I'm with somebody. And things like this have happened to me. I had a lady kind of pass out at a physical therapy appointment, and the EMTs were called. Well, I had the sheet. I had all the information. So I'll just kind of run through it and maybe talk a little bit about why I have that particular information on the sheet. So the very first thing I put on the sheet is the pulsed and the pulsed number. And if you're not familiar with what a pulsed is, pulsed stands for Physician's Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment. It's sort of a much more immediate and a skinny down version of an advance directive. And I highly recommend it for anybody older. I mean, I'm probably getting to the age where I ought to do one for myself. It's a changeable document, but what happens, do you guys want to know about a pulsed? Do you know what a pulsed is? Okay, so a person fills it out with his or her physician. And it's basically 3 sections on, what kind of immediate medical care you want. And then the doctor files it at least in the state of Oregon, files it with the state. And if the EMTs come and you have a pulse number, you also get, and it's also called the pink sheet. So that sheet of information is often put in a person's residence. I've actually known people to post it on their front door because they don't want EMTs coming in and doing massive life-saving measures, which is what they will do. I mean, that's their job, unless they have different orders to go by. So often it's put on the inside of the medicine cabinet. That's a place that EMTs will often look for medical information. And that's a good place to put a lot of information.
Or the refrigerator too, Anne. I often see that in my
Yes,
clients' homes.
yes, yes, on the refrigerator or on top of the refrigerator. But we all want, they don't want to have too many different places to look. And then that they access that number, they type that number in, and then they know, oh, okay, this person, you know, is DNR, don't do any, you know, comfort care only, or this person is okay with an IV, but not CPR, or this person wants everything. This person wants, you know, everything we can do for them. And then there's 3 levels within each of the 3 categories. So I put that on top and I put it in bold. I encourage, you know, pretty much everybody I know of a certain age to have one, or, you know, help their family members get one.
People,
Because then,
and EMTs come, they know what to do.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the EMTs know what to do. They're going to be the first responders. And then a lot of times people get, you know, somebody might get rushed to the hospital. They call a family member and the family member will say, oh, well, you know, dad has an advance directive. Well, it's Saturday afternoon and the advance directive's in the safe deposit box. You're not going to get it until Monday at the earliest. And then, you know, what do you do? So pulse is just a fabulous thing to have, so that the person is making his or her own decisions about medical care. And then that doesn't fall on the person driving them, you know, or with them. Because I'm not going to make medical decisions for other people. I'm not in charge of other people's bodies and health. So then name, address, phone. Phones can be multiple, cell, landline. Sometimes I would note if there's a place to leave a message, you know, which is the best place to leave a message. DOB is date of birth. And I've actually memorized a ton of date of births because that's how you get a lot of people's prescriptions filled. So it's really handy to have that, because you can pick up other people's prescriptions if you know their date of birth. And then emergency contacts. And I, you know, so like all my father-in-laws, it's, you know, my husband and his, well, address, phone numbers, emails, the relationship, son, does he have POA? Yes. You know, so I try to list all that. And I put them in order of how those people should be called. And a lot of times when I was the caregiver, you know, I put down that I was caregiver. So, and then I actually have changed my cheat sheet to add a section called care support. So, and that would be the caregivers or agencies. Hospital preference. It's not a given, but a lot of times an EMT will want to know, okay, where do you want to go? And if the person isn't feeling their best and they have the cheat sheet, I've actually shown up and met EMTs and handed them the sheet, and then they have all the information. And they say, okay, well, this guy wants to go to probably, you know, Pill Hill or Providence or Kaiser West Side or wherever they want to go, that's on there. Health concerns. Actually, at this point, after hospital preference, I typically don't do it in the same order that Whitney has on here, although that order kind of works. but I go to physicians. And I list them all. Primary care, gerontologist, podiatrist, dermatologist, speech or cognitive therapy, ENT, cardiologist, renal specialist, whatever it is, you know, I put what they do first, the category, and then I list the doctor's name. I also, in parentheses after that, put down so name, type, address, phone number, fax. I'll put down who's in the office, you know, the names of the people I'm going to talk to. Most physicians have a medical assistant or something, and they're often the best people there to talk to. And if you know them by name, I don't necessarily remember all their names, especially if my father-in-law is having a medical event. That might not necessarily come to me, but I look at the cheat sheet, bang, it's there. So I can just go with that. Let's see. Yeah, and then I go into medications after that and list all those. And that changes. And with medications, I've learned that you also need to include things like the Benadryl spray or eye drops or supplements they're taking. Kind of needs to be everything, as much as you can get on there. And it changes a lot. Then I put down health concerns. So does the person have heart problems, glaucoma, eye issues, you know, whatever it is, dementia, sometimes the type of dementia, if you happen to know, because not all dementias are the same, and maybe a level, mild, moderate, extreme. Sometimes that's tricky if you're giving a copy of this to somebody who has dementia. They don't really want to see that. So, you know, that's something, a balance there. I actually, on my father-in-law's, I have a particular type of dementia, and he's well aware of the fact that he has that particular type of dementia. Sometimes you can phrase it mild cognitive impairment, you know, and then maybe, yeah, there are different ways you can write that down that are more accessible to the person whose list you're making. And then I list, prior surgeries, and I try to get the dates. So if somebody has had heart surgery, when was it? Or if somebody had cataract surgery, you know, I try to keep that on there. Because if you go, I can't tell you how many people was like, oh, I don't think I've ever had surgery. It's like, oh, yeah, 2 years ago you had cataract surgery. That actually counts. And then I list allergies, vaccinations that actually I've just started doing recently, but along with COVID vaccinations and boosters, there are flu shots, pneumonia, shingles, a whole bunch of things. And then a lot of those, it's not just one shot, it's a series. So it's hard to know, you know, okay, I'm supposed to have this, you know, every year or every 2 years or whatever. That's a good way to keep track of it, all on this same sheet of paper. And then tests, mammograms, colonoscopies, MRIs, echocardiograms. You know, so if the doctor says, I don't write down every time they do lab work, but sort of the bigger things, because if the person ends up in the hospital and I say, oh, you know, when was the last colonoscopy? You know, I can tell them. You know, not that that's going to be a typical question, but, and then the most important thing is I put a date on it, when it was last created. And I do this on the computer. It's a living document. I change it frequently. My father-in-law's, I'm changing at the moment kind of pretty frequently because he's having some medication changes. And he also just had his COVID booster and flu shot. So that way, if I get asked, well, where is he on this? And when has he done that? Because flu shots aren't necessarily recorded in his medical information. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to ask or comment on this on this cheat sheet? No. So one time I was at Costco with my husband and we were going to get flu shots. This was last year. And you have to fill out these long forms with your doctor's, primary doctor and his or her address and some other information. And it was all on my cheat sheet. Well, and I guess actually too on mine, I have, well, my father-in-law's, I have pharmacy information because his is a mail order pharmacy. And I also have, wow, what just went right out of my head.
Okay. Anne, is it okay if I interrupt you? Tammy
Sure.
has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I kept getting like a notice saying my microphone didn't work. I'm having some tech problems, but I wondered, with regard to having like a medical directive on file at a hospital, I was told to do that. And I have been so challenged every time my parents have been in the hospital to actually find the right person at the right time because like the
Mhm.
nurses are just so busy. And I wondered, do you have any advice on that? Because I never have had any conclusion. I don't think I've ever been able to get those on file in the right place.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had success with that. And that the post is kind of overrides that. And the post is immediate. I mean, there's a number and that's in the database. That should be, yeah, because I think also anybody with the right of, any medical personnel should be able to access a post if they have a number. And I don't have any common right at the moment, but I carry a little notebook. And I used to have the pink labels all stuck inside the front cover of my notebook that had the different numbers for people. So there's a little pink sticker.
Okay.
Actually,
I'm
my
not familiar
father,
with what a post is, but I
Post-
joined a couple minutes late. You may have gone over that in the very
yeah, I did. Yeah, we could actually, there should be information online about what a post is. I wonder if we can
Okay.
Google that. It's post stands for Physicians' Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so yeah, here's some information about it. And it's also referred to as the pink sheet. And it kind of
Okay.
it kind of takes precedence over everything else because it's designed to be much more immediate.
Okay. So it's different than like a living will or a medical
Yeah,
directive.
because it's registered with the state. In
okay.
Oregon, I can't talk for Washington. I don't really know if they have it in Washington, but in Oregon, yeah, it's
Okay.
registered with the state and then they just put that number in and all the information, boy, I wish I had one handy.
This is helpful. I will.
Yeah, because it's the first question I think is, do you want, there's 3 categories and 3 levels. So I know one category is like breathing, do you want oxygen? Another, to what degree do you want life-saving treatment? It's like an IV, breathing, and heart, resuscitation. Oh, this is good. So,
Okay, thanks.
We have
I
a
wish-
resource handout that I'll email out afterwards that has all
Yeah.
of everything we talked about today, but yeah, it's kind of a cheat sheet for an advanced directive, Tammy, and it's like this bright, obnoxious pink color.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can put it on your fridge so that the EMTs will see it and know what your loved one needs, or the hospital can look it up. It'll be on file. I did have success getting St. Vincent's to scan my mom's advanced directive in prior to surgery a couple years ago.
yeah,
And, with the systems not always talking to each other, is it just that department that has her advanced directive, or is it like available hospital-wide, system-wide? I don't know. So I think it's always like, if your loved one is having surgery or is in the hospital, if you can take that advanced directive, I think it's always helpful, but I know we can't always get our
We-
hands on it. So that's why Anne's cheat sheet's really handy.
Here's
well,
what
and
it looks like. I have a post sitting here.
oh, good. Thank
I
you.
brought, yeah, so it's just this pink.
Mhm. Yeah, and there you can talk to the 3 categories and that's signed off on. And it's not a document that covers all treatment. It's a document that covers that immediate, the EMTs show up or the person shows up in the hospital, and how, to what degree are life-saving measures followed? What are the wishes of the person? And if the person just wants comfort care, oh, I'm 93, on a 93-year-old, if you if you try to do CPR on a 93-year-old, you're basically going to bust up all their ribs because they're fragile. And, but it's the person's choice. Okay, so I don't want to make judgments here, but, the person needs to make choices about what they want. And some people want anything and everything that the doctors could possibly do. And other people are like, no, you know what? I've lived my life. If I'm that far gone, let me go. Or no, I've lived my life. I'm good. But if I just need an IV, if I'm low on fluids, if I'm dehydrated, and there are ways to make choices in there. Give me IVs, don't necessarily restart my heart, but give me an IV and maybe some oxygen if that's what I need to start, to make some decisions.
Yeah, so there's 1, 2, 3 sections mainly that deal with care. Section A is CPR resuscitation, which is pretty basic. Attempt it or don't attempt it. Section B is medical intervention, which Anne had mentioned is comfort measures only, limited additional interventions, and full treatment. And then there's a third that talks about artificially administered nutrition. So that's basically tube feeding. So and then there's other signatures and other sections, but they're not necessarily related to specific care. But Anne, I don't know where you mentioned having a number, and I don't see a number anywhere on this form.
It registered? Did they actually?
Yeah, is it registered? Because
I-
the number wouldn't be on the form. The number would come out of the doctor's office and be a registered number.
Okay, because she did not check the opt-out box. There's a section that says this form will be sent to the post registry unless the patient wishes to opt out.
Uh-huh.
And she did not check the box to opt out. So I probably just have to check with the physician's office.
Yeah, because usually when somebody's post is registered, you get information back. So you get yet another post, another one of those pink sheets, but you also get a series of stickers that you can put on the back of the person's ID card or driver's license.
Mhm.
You can put that sticker. Actually, one of my ladies had her pink sticker on her refrigerator.
Yeah, that's good for me to follow up on, because if she did this post back in 2017.
Yeah, so that those stickers might be lost.
Yeah, she's moved multiple times since then, so I'll have to follow up on that.
Yeah, I would just ask the doctor's office and say, hey, I know my mom or whoever has a post. and this is the information, but I don't have the pulse number. Could you, the registration number? Because it should start out with OR for Oregon.
Okay,
And then my father-in-law's is then 6 digits after that.
Thank you. And I'm going to bring us back to your cheat sheet. I was fascinated to find out where you carry it. I know you make multiple copies. Can you let us know where we need to have copies of it?
So mine, I have folded up and in my wallet. So I do it, I do 2 columns and then I just fold it up about like that and it fits in my wallet. My father-in-law's, I fold up this size and I carry it with me all the time in a little moleskin calendar. So this
Which
is
we'll
another,
talk about later.
yeah. And then he has a copy that he keeps in his wallet, but he forgets about it. And then I also email, because it's on the computer, I email it to my husband gets a copy and his daughter, my father-in-law's daughter gets a copy. So, and then I bring it with me to doctor's appointments. And doctors are thrilled with this information because it's pretty much everything. Do not put social security information on it. But, oh, I know, I was going to say, I'm with Kaiser, so I have my Kaiser number on mine. And you might want to put, although when it's Medicare, then it's the social security number. So that's a little, and I probably would not put that on the sheet. And then when I update the sheet, I shred the old ones because that's a lot of personal information. So it's a little bit to keep track of. But Kevin and I went to Costco to get flu shots and I had my sheet filled out in about 2 minutes and he was still on his phone Googling, the address for his primary care doctor. And then if you're in medical distress, if you're in any kind of super stress or you're hurt or you're in pain or you're unconscious, you can't remember, you can't come up with that stuff anyway. So if it's all written down, it's really helpful.
I just added a note to the bottom of the cheat sheet. Please do not include your social security information.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Update it as we go. Something else we talked about, Anne, and a question we got prior to today's presentation was managing supplies. And you had some great information, especially for people who are on hospice and what supplies they'll cover, what they won't. So I did put together kind of a list that I'm happy to pull up and go off of if that's helpful for folks who are here today.
Yeah, it's kind of up to people.
Yeah, or do folks have other questions that you'd like to have addressed? One question that we got was about planning and appointments and how do you track everything, because there can be so many appointments.
Yeah.
You maybe want to talk about your book first.
Yeah, so well, I keep all appointments on my phone calendar with reminders. I just have to remember to look at it. And I tend to, if it's an appointment for Ron, like my father-in-law, Ron to Dr. blah, 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 and whatever time we need to be there. I started to talk about this moleskin calendar. People can choose whatever they like. I like this because it actually has this strap. It kind of keeps it shut so it doesn't open up and flop all over the place. But I put cheat sheets kind of in the front cover. I also carry a mask because you just never know when you're going to need one. And then inside, I'll show you a blank page and then I'll show you one I wrote on. So this is just a calendar with a weekly calendar on one side and a blank line page on the other side. And then if I take somebody to the doctor's office, then I write notes on the side, you know, the line side. I usually, then sometimes if I run out of space, I go into this side. Or if I take them to 2 appointments in the same week. But I put, you know, I write down vitals. I always do that. And then I just take notes and questions. Sometimes beforehand, I list questions. And then when I take him or whoever, oh, and I'll circle the date. So this time, I don't know if you can see it, I circled the 16th of June. So I knew what day I was there. But I'll get, you know, I was in the hospital visiting Ron recently, and they wanted to, you know, they had some, you know, is this his baseline? Is this normal for him? Or if I take him to a new doctor, I can say, okay, well, on such and such day, his blood pressure was, you know, I can just flip through this and say, okay, his blood pressures run between this number and that number. I have a record. They can look at it too on the computer, but I have kind of immediate information, which works really well until January of next year. And I don't have it with me, but sometimes I jot some notes down or carry both for a month, which is a little cumbersome. It depends on how many people I have. But it's a nice reminder for me.
I think it's hard to see the size of it on Zoom, but it's something that is pretty lightweight and it fits in your
Yeah.
purse. Is that right?
Yes, it's lightweight. It fits in my purse. Oh, and there's a back pocket. I don't know if you can see that. And then I keep business cards for various doctors or whatever back there.
And
And, you know, I could skinny it down. There are pages in the past. I've taken out some of the stuff in the beginning that, I mean, really this much I can just cut out if I want to make it lighter.
we
But
have
yeah.
and we have a question from Sarah. She asks, have you tried any of the caregiver organizing apps like Circle of, or if anyone else has tried them? Does anyone want to
I
comment?
haven't. Yeah. They might be really good.
Does anyone else here have experience with any of those caregiver apps?
Mhm.
Okay, maybe not. Something to look into.
A
Mm.
couple of the apps we were going to highlight are Lots of Helping Hands.
Mhm.
And then also, sorry, let me pull up our resource sheet.
Oh, Caring Bridge.
Yes, thank you. Caring Bridge was the other one. And those are apps that help friends and family members organize like meal delivery and care and visits. And you can also post health updates so that you don't have to call or email or text 50 different people, and it gets really exhausting just managing all of the communication. You can post something there and people can log in and read it so that that's not all on your shoulders, and you can do it on your own time.
Mhm.
Because you might be exhausted or your loved one might be exhausted and need to rest. So we'll put those on our resource list, but we'll also add a link to Circle of. I'm curious, Sarah, so you've tried Caregiving is what Sarah says, but it's more of an information resource, not so much for staying organized. But I like, sometimes I think the paper, like the notebook you have, Anne, you've got it with you, it's concrete, it's solid. So, because sometimes if you're at the hospital, maybe there's no reception, maybe you can't access things on your phone or look things up. So sometimes it's nice to just have the comfort of having that paper copy with you.
Yeah, that's what I like about the cheat sheet too, is it's there. I have it and I can hand it to somebody. You know, and that's on my computer, so I can print out a new one. So I've handed them out to EMS drivers. So here's everything you need to know, you know, and one guy's driving, the other guy's typing stuff in, you know. Tammy.
So, and with the notebook, do you automatically switch it over at the beginning of the calendar year? Just so it doesn't fill up for too many years? Because I've got one that's been going for like 6 years.
Oh yeah, no, I get a new one every year. And then I hold on to the old ones. You know, it's just a slim little thing. But sometimes I need to go back to them because it was, you know, like my father-in-law changed insurance and changed all his doctors, and then you need to know, oh, who was that guy? You know, so that was not his current primary care physician who helped him with the pulse. You know, it's
Mhm.
like, oh, who was that guy? You know, so I just kind of keep that information.
And so do you have a different one for each person? Like if I have a mom and a dad, would you divide those out, or do you just keep it all together?
I just keep it all together, because yeah, sometimes I would have 3 or 4 different clients. And so I'd write the name of the person, you know, whose appointment it was. Or if it was my appointment, and then who the doctor is. And then, and what that doctor does, and then vitals, and the date, or circle the date. And then you don't use every page. So sometimes, let's say, you know, when Ron was in the hospital, I used up a lot of October, you know, so I flipped back to a blank page and I wrote the date on what it was really from. And yeah, it's mostly just him and me in here, but you don't use every page. So you can go back a page or two, but then date it. So then you have, then when you're flipping through it, go, oh, well, it's on such and such page, but it's really, you know, it's on the September page, but it's really early October. Yeah, Jennifer.
I just wanted to say, we have a much simpler, we don't have a lot of hospital visits and that kind of stuff. So we've just been using this really small book to just keep track of, mostly keeping track of my mother-in-law's vitals at home. So that when we do have to go to the doctor, we do have to call, we can say, oh, well, this is what her blood pressure's been running. This is what her temperature's been running, or these are the notes that we made because of what happened the other day. We haven't been actually making notes at the doctor's appointment. But this has worked pretty well for
Yeah.
the couple of years that she's lived with us, but now it's run out. So you've given me some good ideas for maybe where to go from here. with the
Yeah, and
next-
that looks really handy too. You know, a part of it is with organizing, you have to find something that works for you. You know, and this is just what works for me. That doesn't mean that, you know, some of the apps that Sarah was asking about are useful. It's just that's not my go-to.
Yeah, that's what my husband started. And so that is what was working well for him. And so that's what we've just carried on. And
Yeah.
so far that's been working out.
Now, Anne, you told me about kind of a different type of notebook that you keep for people who are on hospice, like my mother-in-law. Can you tell us a little bit about how that notebook is different?
Sure. Oh, I meant to, well, okay. This is too big. But it's just a spiral bound notebook. I would get one about half the size. But what it has is pockets. So I get kind of a one subject, but with a couple of pockets in it. Because what I like about spiral bound is if you're keeping notes, and hospice is hard and it's long and it's emotional and it's stressful, and there's changes constantly in medications and situations and who's coming and schedules and all that. So in a spiral bound notebook, the pages don't go missing. In a bind, yeah, but in a regular binder with the 3 rings, I can't tell you, people just take those pages right out because they don't have to actually physically rip them out. They just little snap and it's gone, and then you don't know. So I like to kind of control that. But with my people on hospice, I get like a one, so you know, a bit smaller than this, but with pockets, spiral bound notebook. And I just write everything down chronologically. I don't have a separate page for medications and a separate section for who's coming to visit when. I just do everything chronologically. Because after a week or so, you kind of don't care what happened back then. You know, you want to read yesterday's notes from the woman who came to give a bath when she's coming again. Also, you have to write down, well, I think it's important to write down, document every person who comes in and helps and what they do, any information they share, and then every time the person on hospice is given medication and by whom. And sometimes you have to keep track of how much the person's eating and drinking. But if it's all in one spot, it's a lot easier to flip back a couple of pages than to try to find notes in different places. And then hospice workers often will give you handouts. And if they're all kept in a pocket in the same place, then you have that information. Information about medications and side effects and dosages and all that sort of stuff.
I think that's super helpful to have the one notebook and it lives there, and everybody who visits or interacts with your loved one adds to it, because
Yeah.
you know, I got there at like 10 o'clock in the morning to visit my mother-in-law, and I was wondering if she'd had breakfast and she couldn't remember. And
Yeah.
so, you know, I had to go, you spend like 20 minutes trying to track someone down just to figure out, like, okay,
Yeah.
this person had nourishment today. Whereas if you have that notebook, you can just, oh yeah, she had a fried egg over easy or whatever on toast.
Yeah, that's easy enough to write down. And then what is the person eating or not eating? Can they still swallow that? I mean, there's a lot of changes. Hospice is kind of a whole nother world. And then Whitney, you had the great idea. I'm not. I didn't
Like-
occur to me, or I would have done it. But Whitney's suggestion was tie a pen to the notebook. And then another suggestion, if you can do this, and some people don't really like you taping things down, but tape it down on the countertop or something so it doesn't move around. Some families are very respectful of, okay, this is going to stay here because we all need to know where it is. And I've been in situations, the last time I helped somebody through hospice, the 2 adult children were living at home during that particular time. And then I was coming in and I was the respite care. So the son was going to work quite often. And the daughter needed breaks. And you can't, it's hard to give. Sometimes the medication schedule is every 2 hours. And not one person can do that. So you need communication about what medications the person got, how much and when. And then just, you know, and you're never, ever, ever going to remember it because it's a stressful time. It's a difficult time. And you just respond to what you need to respond to at the time.
And I'm going to pull up the resource list of some of the resources that we brainstormed together. But if people have questions, please throw them out. Or if you have resources or experiences you'd like to share, please feel free.
Mhm.
And I was wondering, again, I apologize, I missed the first couple minutes. So
Sure.
do you, as part of your business that people would hire you in a situation that they might need respite care and caregiving? Is that? true?
Yeah,
You
so
can-
I'm not technically working as a caregiver anymore. I did for 19 years. I started with an agency and then I went private care. I just handled it on my own. Yeah, I mean, I did respite care. I had some clients I had one for about 8 years, one for 6. A lot of long-term relationships. I mean, I think of caregiving as more a relationship than a job. And then the last lady was 95 and passed away about 1.5 years ago. And about 2 weeks after she passed away, it was obvious my father-in-law needed a lot of attention, or more attention than he was getting from family. So I really am doing caregiving for him. But he hands me a 20 now and then. I don't really get paid.
Some gas money.
Yeah, it's really what it is.
Tammy, if you are looking for respite care, Sarah, who's been, I think, popping in and out of our call because she's delivering children, she and her family run a caregiving company located here in Portland, and it's called Abra Cares. And
Okay.
yeah, they do a really great job. So if you want to connect with her, I'm happy to give you her information, or she can tell us a little bit more about it if she is able to rejoin us again.
Okay, yeah, I don't have an immediate need, but I do have parents that are saying they will not be moving to a nursing home. And like my mom got charted, I mean, I'll keep this brief, but my mom got charted with dementia and she had them take it off her chart. She was very upset. So when you mentioned that, I was like, okay, this is a thing.
Yeah.
But so I don't have an immediate need, but I'm just kind of in the information gathering stage, I think.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Thanks.
all of Sarah's folks are independent contractors. She said they're often former nurses or CNAs, like people who just want to have a little bit more control over their schedule and not work crazy long hours like they would in a hospital or in a healthcare setting. So they're, high quality trained caregiving folks.
Whitney, I would be interested in Sarah's information because we're actively looking for some respite care.
Okay, great. I will add Sarah on our resource sheet here that I'm going to email out, but I'll
Okay.
also put her in the email.
And Whitney, how do you spell, is it ABRA, Abra Cares, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's abracares.com. But yeah, I've known Sarah for like over 25 years. We actually went to college together, and her dad started their business, and now she's taking care of both of her parents full time. Both have Parkinson's, and then so she has a lot of personal experience and professional experience in this field. And sorry, see, we have something in the chat. Oh, thanks. Oh, Sarah, you're back. I was just talking about Abra Cares. Oh wait, no, she's not. Sorry, that was an earlier one. Sorry, Anne, do you want to tell us a little bit about like hospice and supplies? Because I listed it out here too, but some things they do provide, some things they don't. And then you told me about some products that I didn't know about, and it kind of blew my mind, like the shampoo caps.
Yeah. Yeah, there are all kinds of things out there. And actually, hospice will provide not everything. I mean, they don't provide, like depends. Although sometimes they do it, and each company varies. Sometimes hospice will provide I call them protective undergarments. I don't like to call them diapers because that treats a grown-up like a child. But incontinence products. The last time, the most recent hospice organization I worked with did provide some that had the sticky sides, so you had to not pull-ups. So many of the protective undergarments are pull-ups, and that doesn't work in a hospice situation. But yeah, you can read this. The thing that I have learned and that I would really stress is if a person has a need, like a bath chair, a toilet seat, something, a commode, ask if it's covered. Is this something provided by hospice? Because a lot of times it is, but they're not going to hand you a list of, oh, you can have all this. They're only going to provide what there might be a specific need for. So if there's a specific need for a bedside commode, they may or may not provide it. But they will provide things like mouth swabs, medications. All medications are provided by hospice.
You told me
And
about this
bed.
pressure mattress that alternates too. That's really neat.
Yeah, yes, some people don't have the ability or can't physically, or it's more detrimental to their health than hospices, to roll side to side. So in those situations, if somebody is really just flat on their back and can't move around, there are these blow-up mattress pads that there are sections within it, and you plug it in and it varies the pressure points. So it provides support in different areas and helps the person not develop bed sores. Well, that's the kind of thing, if you don't know about it, you don't know to ask for it. So,
Thank you for that. And I also just have a few other links here, and I'll add the resources that we talked about today as well. Something, Anne, that you pointed out that I thought is super important, but often gets overlooked, is scheduling days off, scheduling respite, self-care.
yeah,
Yeah, I met one lady and she said that a hospice volunteer would come once a week for 4 hours when she was taking care of her mom. And she would go off and take a nap during that time.
mhm.
So once a week she got a
Well,
nap.
you know, if you're doing hospice care, actually, if you're a caregiver for anybody,
Mhm.
1 4-hour break a week is not enough. You know, we really need to take care of ourselves, and we need to say, hey, you know, I can't do all this, or I need a break. And we need to take those breaks. That's really, really important. And
Absolutely.
have people who come in and, you know, just sit with mom or whatever is needed, visit.
Absolutely. In the few minutes that we have left, does anybody have any questions? Or anything you'd like to share from your experience, like Jennifer shared her book with us?
Has anybody used, we recently reached out to All About Seniors in Milwaukee to figure out maybe the next steps for my mother-in-law, because they do placement, both for respite care and for assisted living. So is anybody, Anne, are you familiar with them as an organization or anyone?
I've heard of them. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I know several of the families I worked with used adult living alternatives.
And I can recommend a couple of great folks too.
Yeah.
I have
Okay.
personally used and recommended to other people too.
Yeah,
I can put them on the resource sheet as well.
yeah.
That'd be great. We're just trying to
Yes.
plan for next steps
Yeah,
as
yeah.
the decline continues to happen, and we know we're not going to be able to continue to take care of her at home.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'll send that email out tonight or tomorrow with the resources so that you
That'd be
can
great.
reach out, because I know sometimes sometimes places have wait lists. I think it might be shifting now to where communities don't. But I know it can depend, it can vary.
Well, and also the staffing at places has really dropped, deteriorated. So, yeah. Just because a place is expensive and well-known doesn't mean that they can provide the care. So,
But a placement specialist, like they will know, because they are required to visit each
Yeah.
place twice a year, and they have
Yeah.
close relationships with the staff, so they're gonna know what's going on with each place.
and there's a big variety. There's everything from adult foster care, where it's a maximum of 5 clients in a house, to, you know, great big assisted living places, or that, you know, nursing care places. So there's a real gamut, and that even with that, and there's not just those 2 alternatives. There's a lot in between. So depending on the person's medical needs and kind of what you're looking for. Adult foster care can be absolutely fabulous because it's one caregiver or two to a maximum of 5 people, rather than a hall of 40 people with a caregiver just sort of running around. But on the flip side, in adult foster care, they're doing the caregiving and the cooking and the cleaning and bathing, and they're doing everything. So activities are limited. But if you have mom in an adult foster care and they're taking care of everything else, you might have the wherewithal to come over. You'd have more energy to do the fun stuff. Or take the person to appointments and stuff like that.
Any other questions or thoughts?
I wanted to add on that moleskin planner. I've used it in the past before. I might go back to using it since she brought it up, but I like that you have the option to using a month at a time, and then you have the option to use it a week at a time, because sometimes I feel like weeks can be so hectic. It's easier to oversee it 1 week at a time. And
Yeah.
like she does, she takes notes. Like, okay, this is all I can concentrate right now. So I really liked that part of the moleskin. And then also regarding planning, it is one of my weaknesses, but like today, I took a vacation day from my work because I'm working on my own salsa business. So, and I already had this appointment scheduled on my planner. And then, so I already had decided to take off some time from work. And then I was able to schedule my appointment with the health department on the same day. And then I was able to schedule another appointment. So it was a vacation day, not really how I would prefer to spend a vacation, but it just planned, if I can plan ahead, then I scheduled all these significant appointments and it just worked out well.
Good.
It was just
Yeah.
like appointment day.
Yeah.
Awesome, Yesenia, way to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then you feel so much better when it's over. It's like, phew.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Productive, at least.
Absolutely.
I wanted to make one more comment. Anne, you'd mentioned that you use appointments on your phone, and that is one thing that my husband and I have a shared calendar. So he can add appointments or I can add appointments depending on who's interacting with the caregivers, and that's worked out pretty well, because then we can go back and look at when different appointments took place and who they're with and that kind of thing. So
Exactly. Yeah, and it's good to know, because you get to one appointment, it's like, oh, well, when did he last, see so-and-so? Or, well, when was he in the hospital? How many days?
yeah.
After a while, you can't keep track of it.
Well,
So,
thank
yeah.
you, everybody. And thank you so much, Anne, for being our special guest. I hope that everybody got something out of this, and I will send the follow-up email with the replay and with the resources that we talked about today, and with a copy of the cheat sheet that you can create your own cheat sheet now.
Mhm.
And we can all go do our pulse and register them.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
This is great. Thank you.